when she had had to slay a vampire in the garden. Gloves got in the way when handling a stake, and she'd removed them, losing them in the battle and grinding one under her foot into the grass. But apparently her maid had been able to remove the stain, for the pale pink appeared unmarked. They would look lovely, evening out the sensuality of her garnet-hued gown. And Max might even notice. But then again, he noticed everything. Yet beautiful gowns, intricate coiffures, witty conversation, and intelligent questions made no difference to a man who'd confessed, under duress, that he loved her, but would never, under any circumstances, stay with her, be with her, because he was afraid for her. Since her mother wasn't around, Victoria didn't bother to stifle her snort. Afraid for her? Her, Suma Gardella, the most physically powerful woman in the world, the leader of the Venators, the woman who had the strength and speed that matched superhuman vampires. He was afraid for her? Victoria snorted again. It was more likely that he was afraid for himself, or, more precisely, his heart. Bloody coward. He was currently living in the servants' quarters here in this very house, which had belonged to her great-aunt Eustacia, but now belonged to Victoria. Yet it was only a matter of time until he disappeared again. Only 2 weeks had elapsed since they'd been captured by Lilith, the vampire queen, and escaped from her wrath yet again. Frankly, Victoria was surprised Max hadn't slipped away yet, particularly since the last time they'd been alone was when he'd admitted that he loved her, and had then proceeded to leave the room. Flee, more accurately. He'd taken great care not to be in her presence alone since. She realized, during her wool-gathering, that Verbena, who was as efficient as she was verbose, had removed the dressing robe Victoria wore, and was now lifting the heavy silk gown over her head. Victoria raised her arms so she could find the short little sleeves made of ruched and gathered silk. The frock fell smoothly to the floor, where its hem was anchored by 2 narrow rows of flounces. As Verbena buttoned the gown up over her mistress's corset and shift, Victoria considered her options. There was no sense trying to make Max jealous. He'd been encouraging her into Sebastian's arms for months now. Although Victoria had spent her share of time there, she'd realized no more than a few weeks ago that the man she loved enough to spend the rest of her life with, the man she wanted for a partner and lover, wasn't Sebastian Vioget. It was Max Pesaro. That realization had been creeping up on her for a while, but it had come crashing down upon her unsuspecting head after she'd spent a night in his arms. His warm, muscular arms, against his long, powerful body. "You're shivering, my lady. You can't be chilled. It's July, and from the size of my poofy hair, you can tell how warm out 'tis. I do hope you aren't getting a chill. Nothing like a chill in the summer to make you miserable, you know." Victoria steered her thoughts away from the exceedingly active night that had been the culmination, she realized belatedly, of 2 years of tension between her and Max. Max, whom she had mistaken for a vampire the first time they met. Max, who had believed she couldn't be a successful Venator because, when he'd first met her, she was more concerned about gowns and balls and dance cards and the gentlemen of the ton. Max, who had been there when she slayed her husband Philip after he was turned to a vampire by Lilith the Dark. Max, who was too damned honourable and unselfish and cowardly to accept what she knew he wanted. But she'd at last wrung the confession from him. "I didn't want to love you, but I can't help."